Hello, we meet again in the world of finance. The sale process of Air India has just been completed. Why was it sold? Everybody knows, because it was making losses, huge losses. And now the government of India has started selling shares of Life Insurance Corporation. Why? Maybe also because it's making losses. No, it's a profit-making company in crores. Maybe it's a badly managed company. No, LIC controls more than half of the total life insurance market. Then maybe it's because there is no point in a government running life insurance business. Again, no. Huge fund from the LIC has been used to fund the infrastructure projects of the country, save bad banks and ailing companies. So then why sell the shares? A curious situation, and we have a long story to tell. Almost everybody has heard of LIC. With 2,000 branches, 1 lakh employees and about 3,000 crore policies, it has presence in every corner of the country. LIC is a household name. Till date, it's a government-owned corporation. But soon, its 5% shares will be sold to investors. It's just 5%, but the money involved is gigantic. Though share price is not yet announced, the total amount is expected to be between 50,000 and 90,000 crores. Means the biggest ever public issue in India is going to happen. 90,000 crore. The money is huge, but still it's only 5%. It's 5% versus the rest 95%. Forget about controlling the company. The new shareholders won't even get a decent hearing. Then why this fuss? Every company is bound to make profit and pass it on to its shareholders. But Life Insurance Corporation of India is different. It follows rules set by a Parliament Act rather than the laws that govern companies. 95% of the profits are passed on to its policyholders. That means every policyholder of LIC gets a profit share. Throughout the length and breadth of the country, millions are thus part of this institution. In a country that doesn't have much social security nets, this life insurance is indeed a lifesaver.
The government now proposed to sell a part of its holding in the LIC by way of initial public offer.
The whole picture is going to change. The government of India has declared it. Profit share of policyholders will be brought down to 90% from 95%. 90% is what private insurance companies promise their customers. And as time goes by, the share for customers can come down further.
Now, if that 95% is reduced to 90%, what is wrong with that? It's a small change and they're still getting it. No. See, the so-called surplus fund is now bifurcated into a fund for the non-participating policyholders and a fund meant for the participating policyholders. So the entire fund, you can imagine, out of which the policyholder would have got a share of 90 or 92.5 or 95, depending on the next 5 years. Now, 75%, roughly, I'm just giving you a rough figure, 75% of this taken out of that surplus and then placed at the disposal of the shareholders who are government. But tomorrow, there'll be stock market investors. So beautifully, very cleverly, the government, what they have done is, in order to make it very, very attractive to foreign investors and domestic investors, they have taken away 75% of the surplus funds, which the policyholders would have got it, and quietly transferred it to them.
Journey of LIC from a customer-oriented corporation to a profit-oriented company has begun. From a lifesaver to a money maker. But still, the market is skeptical. LIC has a precedent of pumping crores of money into government projects and companies, stepping in to save bad banks, and is always ready to do any other thing the government wants. The corporation lost more than 20,000 crores some years back by investing in just 5 public sector units. But it has saved many jobs, stabilized some key sectors, saved banks from closure. A noble step for the nation and the people, but the logic of the market is different. Grand virtual roadshows are conducted all over the world. Huge ad campaign is unleashed to woo the local investors. 10 banking firms who are in charge of the IPO are talking to large funds all over the world who would be interested in purchasing the shares. But everybody wants to know one thing. Will LIC stop playing the primitives? IPO failing to achieve the target is unthinkable, politically suicidal. Success in selling 5% of shares is also crucial for the future plans. Nobody believes that the government will stop at selling 5%. Many more shares will be offloaded in the future. That too needs a premium sale in this initial public offering. And when the shares are listed in the share market, the prices should not crash. Whether the government retails the controlling shares or not is immaterial. They will have to succumb to market forces. Union government will give more assurances on the profit multiplying capacity of the company.
After all, government is always more than 50% share, so why are you bothered about it? No. The moment you cross 26% of the shareholding under the Companies Act, you've got a say in policy decisions. So the first thing that the investors will say, look, we are interested in our short-term profits. The stock markets, if you're anywhere in the world, they are short-term profit maximizers, not long-term profit maximizers, because that's basically speculative. So what they will say, why do you want to give so much to the policyholders? You don't have to do that. You change it. In fact, the policy size, average policy size of LIC is roughly 1/4 of the policy size of the private life insurance in this country. There are about 24 or 25 private issue. But still, LIC has been able to defend its own. Its market share is about 70%, but still with a small policy size. That means basically it is catering to the small people in this country. So what will happen is, the moment profit drives the character of LIC, then what will happen is, why should you go to the rural areas? Why should you cover disadvantaged sections like any other private life insurer? Why don't you increase the size so that your profit can be maximized or return will be maximized?
To begin with, we will witness the fading away of customer-friendly insurance policies and emergence of more market-linked schemes, less life insurance and more market volatility. Gradually, LIC will cease to exist as the nation's insurance company. No more Yogatshemam Vahamyaham, its motto, which means your welfare is my concern.
LIC is actually giving dividend already to the central government in lakhs of crores. And for this 5-year plan period, LIC contribution is something like 20 lakh crores. I mean, it's enormous. So when already the dividend is coming, it's a very profit-making public sector undertaking. There is absolutely no earthly reason for this IPO except the government's idiotic and, what should I say, anti-national commitment to privatization.
Modi has already answered it, at least a part of it.
सरकार खुद एंटरप्राइज चलाएं, उसकी मालिक बनी रहे, आज के युग में न ये आवश्यक है न ये संभव रहा है. इसलिए मैं कहता हूं, गवर्नमेंट हैज नो बिजनेस टू बी इन बिजनेस.
But the truth is far from such rhyming phrases. The government is cash-starved. It needs lots of money. With just 2 months to go, this financial year's disinvestment target is shot by a whopping 60,000 crore. So Modi and company will sell anything they can lay their hands on. First sell, then come up with some cock and bull story. Vijay Mallya saves his London home again. Possession order for his 30-bedroom property issued last month in favor of banks have become ineffective. Supreme Court of Bahamas allowed Mallya's family access to money in the trust funds registered there to pay the dues on the building. Meanwhile, India's attempt to bring back the liquor baron is still stuck by his asylum application. Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz demands holding World Bank Group responsible for the environment disaster it caused by funding Tata Mundra power project. Earlier, an American court had ruled in favor of the funder. They must be held accountable for the social and environmental impacts of the projects its loan made possible, he said. Stiglitz submitted his amicus brief in US Supreme Court, urging it to consider the appeal against the verdict. It's already revealed that the dangers of the project were known to the International Finance Corporation, the private lending arm of World Bank, even before funding it. Fish workers and farmers in Mundra are suffering from the impacts of the project for over a decade. India's retail inflation has crossed the 6% barrier. This was the upper tolerance level set by Reserve Bank. Consumer Food Price Index also spiked to 5.43%. In both cases, rural India is more affected than the urban areas. With the global oil prices surging ahead, things can get even worse. But the Reserve Bank refuses to intervene. It still believes that rates will climb down. Security and Exchange Board of India bars Anil Ambani and 3 others from capital markets for alleged siphoning of funds. It's alleged that Ambani Jr. distributed borrowed fund of Reliance Home Finance to promoter group entities, a shady deal. Now he cannot associate with any listed company, stock market intermediary or any public company that intends to raise money. The union government is fast running out of equity to sell from the public sector units. After the current round of disinvestments, the remaining value of Government of India's holdings in public sector enterprises above 51% is now more than 2 lakh crore. This figure is from the host mouth, the Disinvestment Department Secretary. Centre will now follow a careful approach, Pandey said. But the PSU crusaders have nothing to celebrate. This figure is without including the government banks. Its sale shall soon commence. One more fraudster has joined the club of Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi. His name is Rishi Kamlesh Agarwal. He runs ABG Shipyard based in Gujarat and is accused of a bank fraud which by its size India has never witnessed. It's the biggest bank fraud in the country so far. About 23,000 crore was cheated from 28 banks. ABG Shipyard managed to get tons and tons of money for a long time, which was siphoned off in multiple ways. Loans started in the last decade, and when the company defaulted, more loans were granted. When it was also not paid back, more money was again sanctioned in the name of saving the company so that banks will get all their money back. It took almost a decade to find out that the entire project was designed to cheat. While the mainstream media chased the ABG story, let's find out why such scams happen one after another in the country. 1.37 lakh crore is the last year's total amount lost in fraud loans. The Reserve Bank's guidelines on lending favors the corporates and not the banks. It's based on growth projection and not on security for the loans. The gap between the security cover and the actual loan stretches so wide that when default happens, there will be no way to get back the money. Or the banks should give more loans hoping that the company will regain its profitability and pay back the dues. State Bank of India, which lost about 3,000 crore in the ABG scam, has the Reserve Bank Deputy Governor in its director board, but it didn't save the disaster. All large loans are reported to Reserve Bank and it does conduct regular inspections. In 2014, asset quality review was also done by RBI in addition to regular inspections. And there was also a corporate debt restructuring system which reviewed the shipyard case in the same year. Still, the fraud scheme went undetected. It took 8 years to declare it a fraud. Defense of Finance Ministry is that it happened before 2014, before the BJP government. But what prevented them from criminal action till 2020, which was the invisible hand that delayed it? Who helped ABG Shipyard? Was it the BJP or the Congress? Well, the question itself is immaterial because we know that the super rich rub shoulders with both. They meet at parties, crack jokes, and boast of future plans until they are exposed completely. They belong to the same tribe. We the people also belong to a tribe, a different tribe, who are chased till the edges of earth for defaulting a house loan or a small MSME loan. So pay your bills and dues in time, unless you are a Vijay Mallya or the new star Rishi Agarwal. Goodbye till we meet again.